He used to glare at me across the lecture hall, like I'd stolen something that belonged to him. Maybe I had attention, grades, a moment in the spotlight. Gavin was the campus golden boy, captain of the debate team, everyone's favorite, too confident to ever look uncertain. Until the day he did. It started with rivalry, ended with silence, and somewhere in between we forgot which parts were hate and which were something else. Now he's back. Same dorm corridor, same crooked grin, and all the things we never said feel dangerously close to breaking loose again. I hadn't seen Gavin in almost a year, not since the debate finals when he'd slammed his notes on the table, told me to stay out his way, and walked out like the storm he always was. But tonight, his name was glowing on the dorm assignment sheet, right above mine. He looked up from unpacking when I walked in, voice calm but eyes sharp. Rooming with you wasn't my idea. Guess fate didn't ask either, I said. He smirked, that same infuriating twist of lips that made my chest tighten more than I'd ever admit. The first week back felt like walking on glass. He blasted music when I studied, borrowed my charge without asking, and tossed sarcastic comments like darts. But every time our hands brushed, passing coffee, switching seats, his eyes flickered like the world stopped for half a second. People on campus still adored him. He was the confident senior, with a laugh you could hear across the quad. Me? I was the one who used to challenge him at everything. Now we were sharing the same four walls, the same late nights, and the same silence that said too much. One evening, a thunderstorm cut the power. The room went dark, except for flashes of lightning through the window. I heard him sigh, then his voice, quieter than I'd ever heard it. Remember freshman year? The library argument. I laughed softly. You mean when you accused me of cheating? He looked over. I didn't think you'd remember that. How could I forget the first time you hated me? He didn't answer. Just watched me in the dim light, the distance between us shrinking with every breath we didn't take. Outside, thunder cracked. Inside, everything felt louder. After that night, something shifted. He started making 2 coffees instead of 1. He'd toss a book at me with a mumbled, "Thought you'd like this," and then pretend he didn't care if I did. And yet, every time I caught him watching me over his laptop, he looked away too slowly. Rivalry was easy. This was not. Sometimes I wanted him to go back to being the guy who hated me. At least then I knew the rules. Now, I was stuck wondering what it meant when his voice softened around my name. The campus gossip mill noticed first. "Are you 2 friends now?" someone asked. Gavin scoffed before I could answer. "Friends? He wishes." But later that night, when the hallway emptied, he leaned against our doorframe and said, "You shouldn't let them bother you." "Does it bother you?" I asked. He hesitated, long enough to tell me everything his mouth wouldn't. Then he said, "It shouldn't," and walked away. For someone who loved to win, Gavin never seemed to know what to do when the game stopped feeling like one. Mid-semester came fast, with late-night cramming and half-shared playlists. Sometimes he'd fall asleep on his desk, hair falling into his eyes, and I'd catch myself wanting to brush it away. That was when I realized how dangerous this had become. He wasn't my rival anymore. He was the pulse I couldn't ignore. One night, he caught me staring and smiled, not the cocky one, the real one. "Something on your mind?" "Yeah," I said quietly. "You." The words slipped out before I could stop them. For a heartbeat, neither of us breathed. He didn't answer right away. Then he stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. "You always say exactly what you shouldn't. Someone has to." Lightning flashed again, painting his face in silver light. Every line of pride, every trace of confusion. "Maybe that's why I could never stop noticing you," he said finally. And just like that, the storm outside didn't matter, because the one between us had already begun. The storm outside had only mirrored the one inside. We weren't rivals anymore. Not really. Somewhere between shared coffee and quiet nights, Gavin's walls began crack. He wasn't supposed to notice me, and I wasn't supposed to care. But when he finally admitted it, the silence between us felt like gravity. The morning after that storm, everything felt heavier. We didn't talk about what happened. Didn't need to. Every glance lingered. Every word carried double meaning. He'd laugh at something small, and I'd wonder if he knew how easily that sound could undo me. Classes blurred by. Even when I wasn't near him, I could feel the echo of his voice, that low, calm tone that used to taunt and now lingered. Maybe he still hated me. Maybe he didn't know how not to. Either way, I couldn't stop waiting for him to look again. Weeks passed, and our rivalry became a ghost. He stopped challenging me in debates, stopped needing to win every argument. Instead, he'd lean back, study me like he was trying to understand something. One night, while I was reviewing notes, he said, "You're quieter than before. You miss when I used to annoy you?" He smiled. "You never annoyed me. You scared me. That shut me up." "Scared you?" He nodded slowly. "You made me feel like I wasn't in control. And I hated that." My chest tightened. Maybe we both lost control the same way. After that, things between us became almost peaceful. We'd eat together, study together, and sometimes sit in silence just because it was easier than pretending. He'd start a sentence, then stop halfway, as if saying out loud would make it real. One night, he said, "You know, I used to think hating you was easier than liking you." I looked at him, heart pounding. "And now," he exhaled, gaze drifting toward the window. "Now I don't know which one I'm doing." I didn't answer. I didn't have to, because the truth was, I didn't know either. It was the end of the semester when I realized I didn't want him to graduate. He was already talking about moving to another city, another job, another life. I tried not to think about it, but he noticed. Gavin always noticed. "You're quiet again," he said one night, packing a box. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how empty this room's going to be." He froze, hands still. Then softly, "You'll forget me." "I won't," I said before I could stop myself. "You're not that easy to forget." His eyes met mine and the air between us thickened again. That night, he didn't sleep in his bed. He stayed up reading, pretending he didn't notice me watching from across the room. When dawn broke, he looked at me, tired but unguarded. "Do you ever wonder how it could have been different?" he asked. "Different how?" "If we hadn't started off hating each other." I smiled faintly. "Then we wouldn't have ended up here." He laughed under his breath. "Yeah, maybe this was the only way." His voice cracked just a little, like he knew what came next would hurt. Graduation day arrived too soon. He was everywhere, smiling for photos, shaking hands, but his eyes always found me in the crowd. After the ceremony, he walked over, still holding his cap. "So this is it," he said. "Guess so. Don't let anyone tell you you're hard to forget." I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, memorizing the way sunlight caught his hair, how his smile didn't reach his eyes. Then he turned and walked away before I could stop him. And for the first time, I realized I'd lost something I never really had. Months later, I found an envelope tucked inside one of my old books. It was his handwriting. "You were right. Hate was easier. But what we had was real, even if it never fit into words." There was no signature, just his name scribbled at the bottom like a memory that refused to fade. I folded the letter and stared out the window, the campus glowing under the evening sun. We never got a perfect ending. But maybe we didn't need one, because sometimes the story that stays with you isn't the one that ended. It's the one that almost did.